Chicago. Thank you. Thank you. I just spent 4 days complaining about people not riding the applause. So shut the fuck up. We have business to attend. Welcome to Love It or Leave It. It is great to be back at the Vic. It has been a joyous week here at the Democratic National Convention. And that's not just because Obama patted me on the head and called me a good boy. But first, let's get into it. What a week. Yeah, look at this. You guys are pumped up. The DNC kicked off on Monday with high-energy speeches that ran wildly behind schedule and an emotional send-off to President Biden. Personally, I thought pushing him into the Chicago River on that little wooden barge and then shooting flaming arrows into it was a little over the top. But ratings are ratings. AOC brought the house down with a barn burner of a speech.
And I, for one, am tired of hearing about how a two-bit union buster thinks of himself as more of a patriot than the woman who fights every single day to lift working people out from under the boots of greed, trampling on our way of life.
What a speech. Can you imagine being Joe Biden knowing you have to follow this? It's like if the 60s Rolling Stones opened for present-day Joni Mitchell. I'm sorry.
This is going to be a great week. And I want to kick us off by celebrating our incredible President Joe Biden, who will be speaking later tonight. Joe, thank you for your historic leadership, for your lifetime of service to our nation, and for all you will continue to do. We are forever grateful to you. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe, she said as she lifted the political pillow off the face of his presidency. Hillary Clinton stopped by to analyze Trump's treatment of Kamala.
He's mocking her name and her laugh. Sounds familiar. But we have him on the run now.
Just picturing a giant Hillary Clinton chasing around a tiny Donald Trump with a net. Then Hillary Clinton's stare became as ice, and she looked directly into the camera and intoned, "Donald, it's time for you to Pokemon go to hell." Meanwhile, over on CNN, Nancy Pelosi had this to say when Jake Tapper asked her about her reportedly strained relationship with President Biden.
It does seem like there's some residual bad blood or resentment, and I'm wondering if you've spoken to him and what your response is to that.
Sometimes you just have to take a punch for the children.
Pelosi better be careful if she keeps this up. I just might fall in love with her. Nancy Pelosi is getting cooler with every passing day. I think she's in pussy right now. Is that possible? President Biden, of course, closed out the evening reflecting on his legacy and passing the torch to Harris in a late-night address.
I've got 5 months left in my presidency. I've got a lot to do. I intend to get it done. It's been the honor of my lifetime to serve as your president. I love the job, but I love my country more.
Joe Biden loves this country more than I love anything, except maybe my smoking hot girlfriend, Nancy Pelosi. Biden then said that selecting Kamala as his VP was the best decision of his career, and he made a little joke.
And like many of our best presidents, she was also vice president. That's a joke.
When he's on, and when he's off, not our business anymore. Not my problem. Biden pledged his full support to the Harris campaign, promising that he'd be the best volunteer Harris and Walz had ever seen. Continued Biden, sure, it's going to take me several tries to join the training Zoom, and then I'll be on there unmuted while Jill is using a juicer behind me. But after the host has manually muted me, best volunteer you've ever seen. Reflecting on his legacy, Biden capped off his speech by quoting a verse from the song American Anthem by Gene Shear.
The work and prayers of centuries have brought us to this day. What shall our legacy be? What will our children say? Let me know in my heart when my days are through. America, America, I gave my best to you.
You're the red, white, and blue. Oh, the funny things you do. America, America, this is you. Stirring stuff. On night 2, second gentleman Doug Emhoff spoke about awkwardly calling the vice president after their first date.
I got Kamala's voicemail and I just started rambling. Hey, it's Doug. I'm on my way to an early meeting. Again, it's Doug. I remember I was trying to grab the words out of the air and just put them back in my mouth.
Reminds me of the message I left for Jill, said President Biden. Jill, it's Joe. Stop. Are you free Friday? Stop. Sad news about the Titanic. Stop. Stop. All right. Meanwhile, Vice President Harris and Governor Tim Walz held their rally in Milwaukee, packed out the same venue where the RNC was held last month. Yeah. They did have to wake up Rudy Giuliani and shoo him out of there with a broom. And they think he may have had babies. But after that... I'm so tired. All right. But the stars of Tuesday evening were, of course, the Obamas. Here's President Obama hammering Donald Trump.
There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
That's the beauty of a great performance, which is Shakespeare, hundreds of years old. You can find something in the text. That was not on the page. He found that in the text. Incredible. What a performer. A subtle dick joke, a refined dick joke, a sophisticated dick joke. This man simply will not stop making history. Said the former president.
It is one of the oldest tricks in politics. From a guy whose act has, let's face it, gotten pretty stale. We do not need 4 more years of bluster and bumbling and chaos. We have seen that movie before, and we all know that the sequel is usually worse.
Kate Blanchett angrily throws the script for Tar 2 against the wall. But not because she's angry at Obama. She's angry that he's right. And then there was Michelle Obama with an absolute blockbuster speech. Here she is praising Kamala while simultaneously humiliating Trump.
She understands that most of us will never be afforded the grace of failing forward. We will never benefit from the affirmative action of generational wealth.
A great line. Not pulling well with Malia and Sasha, but... Still a great line. Said the former First Lady.
For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hardworking, highly educated, successful people who happen to be black. I want to know, who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs?
She is so good at this. It is such a shame she doesn't have the excruciating, bottomless inner void that makes people want to be president. And then on Wednesday night, former President Bill Clinton threw this bit of old man shade at Donald Trump.
2 days ago, I turned 78, the oldest man in my family of 4 generations. And the only personal vanity I want to assert is I'm still younger than Donald Trump.
Yeah, we are all so full of shit. Yeah, get his old ass. This convention was literally planned for an 81-year-old man. It's a lot of the same program. I mean, I'm for it. But you know, if this was still Biden, Bill Clinton's speech would have had the same folksy delivery, but about how we may be old, but you can trust an old dog to watch your porch. Or whatever. We were ready to turn ageist on a fucking dime. Clinton noted that Trump primarily uses his platform to talk about himself, saying this.
So the next time you hear him, don't count the lies. Count the eyes.
Pokemon Go get his ass, babe, whispered Hillary. And then it was Oprah o'clock. Here she is.
Soon and very soon, we're going to be teaching our daughters and sons about how this child of an Indian mother and a Jamaican father, two idealistic, energetic immigrants, how this child grew up to become the 47th president of the United States.
Yeah. All right, I think we're up to 40% on forgiving her for Dr. Oz. No? Okay, all right. Never forget. So important. That's what that phrase is about. It's about the 1990s creation of Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz. And finally, it was time for your guy and mine, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, formally accepting the vice presidential nomination and introducing himself to America.
So there I was, a 40-something high school teacher with little kids, zero political experience, and no money, running in a deep red district. But you know what? Never underestimate a public school teacher.
Coach, I will say, talk to any of your friends that are teachers, they're completely overwhelmed and desperate to be underestimated. Please, will anyone underestimate me? I can't take this anymore. Walz also leaned into his coaching experience.
You know, you might not know it, but I haven't given a lot of big speeches like this. But I have given a lot of pep talks. We're down a field goal, but we're on offense and we've got the ball. We're driving down the field. And boy, do we have the right team.
We've got the ball. We're driving down the field. Jon Lovett is throwing a perfect spiral. Jon Lovett is being lifted onto the popular kids' shoulders. Jon Lovett is actually going to the prom, and not as some cruel joke. These kids have never considered dousing Jon Lovett in pig's blood. It's a beautiful fantasy. The most memorable moments of the speech maybe of the whole convention came when Walz opened up about his family's fertility struggles and his son Gus stood up applauding tearfully and said, "That's my dad."
It took Gwen and I years, but we had access to fertility treatments. And when our daughter was born, we named her Hope. Hope, Gus, and Gwen, you are my entire world, and I love you.
Every time, that's my dad, that's my dad. It's cool that for a lot of people watching the DNC, this was their first time seeing Tim Walz. Tim Walz is just a total stranger who appeared out of nowhere to make them cry. Republicans, of course, took immediately to mocking this public display of emotion. Broken, bitter Republican pundits mocking Kamala and Tim for having healthy and loving relationships with their families as they text their daughter during the commercial to see if they could meet their grandkids. What about a public place? As if also we didn't just watch the RNC in which Republican family boxes look like a bunch of hostages holding grenades with the pins pulled during a bank heist. Just clenched fucking jaws. Meanwhile, hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters also demonstrated outside the United Center on Wednesday as members of the Uncommitted movement held a sit-in after the DNC denied their request to have a Palestinian American speak at the convention. More like not quite United Center. What else? That's it. That's what I got. Seems like there was probably time. I don't know, somewhere between 7 congressmen. I, a person who follows Congress for a living, have never heard of. They invented congresspeople to speak at this convention. I don't know. What do I know? And then on Thursday, rumors started to fly on social media that a special guest was scheduled to drop in, with speculation naming everyone from Taylor Swift to Beyonce to Mitt Romney. 3 equally exciting possibilities, said Mitt Romney. But then it turned out to be a completely made-up rumor fed by TMZ and a bunch of clout-chasing accounts on social media. And we ate it up like the naive little hogs we are. Yum, yum, yum. Give me that slop. Maybe Tom Cruise will dive in from the ceiling. We have no idea what Tom Cruise's politics really are, and I'm sure they are disturbing. There's no way they're not. No way. In the end, there was no surprise guest. Sometimes you got to start a fake rumor to get that ratings boost, and that's why Dolly Parton has been rumored to be booked on Love It or Leave It since 2022. Except for next week. Next week, she's actually on the show. Rumor has it. And then after 3 nights in which primetime speeches were pushed past primetime as politicians hammed it up and went long, everyone got their shit together, and Kamala took the stage right on time.
On behalf of every American, regardless of party, race, gender, or the language your grandmother speaks, on behalf of my mother and everyone who has ever set out on their own unlikely journey, on behalf of Americans like the people I grew up with, people who work hard, chase their dreams, and look out for one another, on behalf of everyone whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth, I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America.
Pretty neat. And to think all we had to do to get here was relentlessly bully an old man. Weeks on end, said the vice president.
And understand, he is not done. As a part of his agenda, he and his allies would limit access to birth control, ban medication abortion, and enact a nationwide abortion ban with or without Congress. Get this. He plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator and force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions. their minds.
Nice. So there was a bunch of fact checks, and one of them said something like, actually, it's technically not an anti-abortion coordinator, it's a pro-life coordinator at the Office of Women and Families. It's an anti-abortion czar. It's like you read the fact check claiming to like debunk, and you get to the end of it and you're like, this is more true than I could have ever hoped. I thought it was a little bit more bullshit. Harris went on to say this.
It is now our turn to do what generations before us have done, guided by optimism and faith, to fight for this country we love, to fight for the ideals we cherish, and to uphold the awesome responsibility that comes with the greatest privilege on earth. The privilege and pride of being an American.
That was the part where I blacked out and accidentally joined the army. I'm supposed to be at Fort Jackson on Tuesday, but it's fine, I'm gonna get out of it. Concluded Harris.
So let's get out there. Let's fight for it. Let's get out there. Let's vote for it. And together, let us write the next great chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told.
At noon, on Inauguration Day, there's a knock on George R.R. Martin's door. It's time to finish. By order of the president. The reaction to the speech at the United Center was electric, but not everyone was pumped after 4 days of Democratic excitement. Afterwards, Fox News got Trump's off-the-cuff reaction to Kamala Harris' speech at the DNC, and it was a lot of this.
Beaten Joe Biden in a Democrat primary. I have no doubt about it. And they made it absolutely impossible for him. They made it that you have to get 60, 70% of the vote just to get in. And you know what? In the end, the Democrats did the same thing to Joe Biden.
Fox hosts bringing Trump on and then trying to end it when he starts rambling incoherently is like letting a feral raccoon out of his cage in the hopes that he'll do your taxes. Please, please, Mr. Bandit, it's April 15th and all you've done is destroyed my ottoman. When even the Fox News hosts pointed out that Kamala is having some success with groups that Trump had been appealing to, Trump replied with this.
Polls show that she's having some success in that at this point. So what are you going to do? What's your strategy to rebuild the momentum that you had with those voters?
No, she's not having success. I'm having success.
Oh, what's my strategy? Go fuck yourself. Sometimes it seems like Trump isn't trying to win, but just trying to save face. Speaking of which, someone should save his face. It looks like he's slowly transforming into one of those shitty Confederate bronze statues. Here he is at the border. During that Fox News interview, Trump was cool and collected as always, audibly hitting the buttons on his phone.
Raising taxes. She's going to give a tax increase of 4 to 5 times what people and companies are paying right now.
Once in a while, I'll be on the phone with a friend while in line at like a Chipotle or something, and they're telling a story, and I'll get to the front of the line to order, and I'll try to pause my friend because I think they're a podcast. And I'll just hang up on them. We were trying to figure out how Trump was he on a landline? Like, how did he accidentally hit the buttons? And so we did do a test before the show where I called Hallie to see that if I opened the key fan on my phone and pressed the button, she would hear the dial tone, and indeed she did. But was it an accident, or was he so mad he was trying to yell at 2 different people at once? We'll never know. Speaking of cosmic mysteries, on Friday, a giant rich human pickle named Robert F. Kennedy Jr. suspended his campaign and endorsed Donald Trump. He spoke from a place of humility.
Now, in an honest system, I believe that I would have won the election.
Sure. And in an honest system, everyone would have thought it was fucking hilarious to dump a dead bear cub in Central Park. But the system, alas, it is rigged. His speech was wide-ranging, hard to summarize, really, but let's go ahead and just drop in at any random part.
120 years ago, when somebody was obese, they were sent to the circus.
He also says this line about the circus like it was federal policy, like there was a draft or something. Like any boilerplate withdrawal speech, Kennedy also included a section on when girls first get their periods.
America's puberty rate is now occurring at age 10 to 13, which is 6 years earlier than girls were reaching puberty in 1900.
At last, a much-needed injection of normalcy into the Trump-Vance campaign. You know, I'm not a woman, though I have been told I run like one many times, mostly in middle school. On behalf of all women, though, I feel confident that I can ask all presidential candidates who are not women to refrain from sharing their concerns about the onset of menses. And I agree, getting some agreement there. Speaking of causing women discomfort, Donald Trump and Jennifer Lopez Vance hit the campaign trail this week. And Don is still pissed about the whole weird thing.
You know, he said, we're weird. That JD and I are weird. I think we're extremely normal people. Like you, exactly like... He's weird.
Yeah, Walz is the weird one. He probably doesn't even have a chandelier in his documents bathroom. Trump also went after Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, who spoke on Wednesday night, writing on social media, the highly overrated Jewish governor of the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, made a really bad and poorly delivered speech. Hey, I have a joke. Everybody ready? What's the difference between Donald Trump and a Reformed Jew? Donald Trump's grandchildren are Jewish. That was for you, it was for you. The Trump train headed down to North Carolina, where he lamented not quite landing a nickname for Kamala.
I think her name will be Comrade because I think that's the most accurate name. You know, I've been looking for a name. People are saying, sir, don't do it. You know all my names. They've all worked. They've all been very successful. And I really didn't find one with her.
A peek behind the curtain, the fartist at work. Like the NBC reality star he is, Trump left it to the audience to decide.
We're going to do a free poll. Here's the two questions. Should I get personal? Should I not get personal? Ready? Should I get personal? Should I not get personal? I don't know. My advisors are fired.
I love this. On one hand, he has his advisors poring over polling data and crosstabs, desperate to make the race about the economy, the border, the Biden administration. But the angriest baby boomer in Asheboro, North Carolina, is demanding that I call Kamala the C word. So what's a candidate to do? Meanwhile, Joe Dirt Vance has somehow managed to out-awkward himself this week on the campaign trail. Here he is interacting with other human beings at a donut shop.
I'm sorry, man. Okay, yeah. She doesn't want to be on film, guys, so just cut her out of anything. Appreciate that, man. I'm JD Vance. I'm running for vice president. Good to see you.
Okay.
Manages to go to a donut shop, and he's still the biggest hole. It continues to get awkward from there.
There'll be a lot of glazed here, some sprinkle stuff, some of these cinnamon rolls, just whatever makes sense.
Whatever makes sense. Relatable. I also hate it when my box of assorted donuts makes no sense. Like when they're inside out or all the donut holes have hard-boiled eggs in them. But wait, let's watch this master of small talk at work.
How long are you working?
I've been here since the beginning of July.
Okay.
For this year.
Okay, good. How about you, sir?
Almost 2 years.
Okay. How long has this place been around?
About 4 years.
About 4 years? Okay. How long have you been here?
A little over 6 months.
Okay, good.
Some stories that they're going to kind of park J.D. Vance in Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania is make or break for Trump, and I hope they do. I hope he wanders the countryside in rural Pennsylvania like a Yeti, making random people deeply uncomfortable. It's also, by the way, like, that is the perfect meeting of a terrible candidate and a terrible campaign, because he's walking into this place, there's nobody there, no supporters, create a little life around him. The person behind the counter doesn't want to be part of this, doesn't even want to be on camera, certainly doesn't like J.D. Vance. Fantastic. But then J.D. Vance walks in, and he could charm the spots off a cheetah, that guy. It's a phrase I just made up. And it worked, because I could charm the spots off a cheetah. All right, stop it. Now let's compare J.D. Vance to Tim Walz. When Tim Walz went to an establishment in Nebraska.
We really came just to go to Runza, and then we did a little rally on the side when we had a little extra time.
Amazing.
If you don't know, the iconic Nebraska restaurant is the Runza. Don't call it anything else except a Runza. The bread consistency, all of it really matters. I got the Swiss and mushroom, is kind of a classic. The cheese is solid. You can be a little bit creative, but this is it. If you're going to go to Nebraska, if you're going to go to a Nebraska football game, if you're just going to be a good person, you stop at Runza. I think it's the bread consistency. I mean, get this guy on TV for Runza. Thanks for the work you're doing. Matters.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Pleasure to meet you all. Wow.
That to me is also just a great example of happy people make people happy, right? He's just a happy guy. He made those people happy. J.D. Vance may be smiling, but he's not a happy person. J.D. Vance challenging Tim Walz to a normal person contest is like J.D. Vance challenging Simone Biles to a normal person contest. And finally, Sven, a gay penguin at a Sydney aquarium who is in love with another male penguin named Magic, has died at age 11. And right before his speech to the DNC. All right.